Hi everybody, it's Terry Ryder from Hotspotting, and this is Tuesday evening, so it must be, and it is, Hotspot of the Week. Our weekly examination of one location around Australia that really stands out as a place that property consumers should be considering. So this week we published the most latest edition of the Price Predictor Index. We publish it every 3 months. It's one of our most popular reports, the ones that our customers get most often, because it's a unique report that gives a clue to where prices are going to be rising in the not too distant future before it actually happens. And we do that by examining demand patterns. We look at sales activity for every town and suburb in Australia, because we know from our experience and from our research that locations that have a pattern of steadily rising sales activity, which means steadily rising demand, are very likely to have our prices growing. And conversely, locations where there's a pattern of falling sales activity, we're likely to see previous price growth come to an end, or in some cases, as we're now seeing in some parts of Sydney, we're going to see prices fall. So the current edition, the current spring edition of the Price Predictor Index, has found that the number one jurisdiction in Australia, the number one market with the most rising suburbs, is actually Adelaide. Surprises a lot of people, but it shouldn't. If they were well informed, they'd know that Adelaide is a very active market. And I note that realestate.com.au in the past week has published their latest research on where houses are selling the fastest. Now, previously, that list, whenever they've published it, has been dominated by Hobart. And the latest list still has Hobart very prominent, but now Adelaide is challenging Hobart as the major market of Australia where real estate is selling the fastest. We're not surprised by that. They were, we're not, because we knew that was coming, because we've been charting sales activity. And Adelaide has a lot of markets where demand is rising, and some parts of that market is also starting to produce some really good price growth, particularly the top end of the market. So the latest edition of the Price Predictor Index, as we do in every edition, we award one location, one local government area as the national number one growth star, and we also have another award which is the nation's number one most consistent market. Now, both those awards in the latest edition have gone to locations in Adelaide. And the number one growth star is the local government area of Port Adelaide Enfield. And the reason for that is it has more suburbs with growing demand than any other local government area anywhere in Australia. So let's talk about Port Adelaide Enfield. I note that in the last few days, we've found in our daily research effort, when we're tapping into media sources around the country and other internet sources, scouring for information that could give us a clue to what's happening in markets and which markets are going to be rising in the not too distant future. And that research has turned up a couple of notable articles about that Port Adelaide area. One is that Treasury staff are starting the relocation that's been planned for a while, where a large numbers of several hundred state public servants are moving to new premises, a new $40 million office building in this area. So it's going to bring some additional significant demand into that location. Another story talking about $160 million redevelopment of an area of Port Adelaide known as Fletcher's Slip. There's a master plan development by developer Cedar Woods happening there, 500 new homes. Just a couple of bits of news that popped up in our research this week, which reinforce what's going on in the city of Port Adelaide Enfield. But the biggest thing happening there is the Defence Force contracts. The contracts to build vessels for the Navy at the Osborne Naval Shipyard, which is part of the Port Adelaide precinct. That shipyard is currently undergoing an upgrade costing over $500 million to ready that facility for building the vessels that are going to be built over the next couple of decades. And those contracts are worth about $90 billion. That's a massive project it would be a massive project if it was happening in Sydney, which is 4 or 5 times the size of Adelaide. So for Adelaide, it's just colossal. and numerous other things happening up there. But first, the background. Why do we rate Port Adelaide Enfield? It's located actually not that far from the CBD of Adelaide. The closest part's about 8 kilometres. It's a very big local government area, quite sprawling, and there's over 50 suburbs in this local government area, which takes in the Port Adelaide precinct, but it extends further south than that, heading towards the Adelaide CBD. It's got a diverse economy, renowned industrial precincts, including the Osborne Naval Shipyard, where major vessels have been built for some time, but what's coming up is the 2 largest ever naval projects in Australia, which are the submarine project and the air warfare destroyer construction. Those are current projects, and there's more to come. Yeah, a lot of major industrial business, manufacturing happens up there. Fertiliser manufacturer and Scitech Pivot recently moved into a new distribution centre that has been created for them there. So a strong, diverse economy, some significant urban renewal happening in and around the port areas. That's been going on for a while, gradually improving the lifestyle up there. And out of this has come a vibrant property market. Adelaide, as I said, is very strong overall, but this is the #1 precinct. That's because it's got 12 of its suburbs have clear patterns of strongly rising demand. That's more than any other local government area in Australia at the moment. And other aspects of its property market stand out for us. The first thing is the low vacancy rates. There's 10 or 12 postcode areas in this local government area, and pretty much all of them have vacancy rates below 1.5%. That's a very tight rental market. There's 3 of them below 1%, and there's several others somewhere between 1% and 1.5%. There's only one on our list that's got a vacancy rate above 2%. It's only a little bit above 2%. So out of that, very tight vacancies, we can assume quite a strong rental market, and the rental yields are pretty solid up there. Most suburbs have median yields above 4%, somewhere between 4% and 5%. Affordability is a major attraction here. Lots of smallish suburbs in this local government area, and many of them have median prices below 500,000. Now, the list that appears in our location report on this particular area, Port Adelaide Enfield, we list the suburbs with the greatest number of annual sales. 3 of them have median prices in the high 300,000s, and then the majority of the people on our list, majority of the suburbs rather on our list, have median prices somewhere in the 400,000. Then there's a few that are in the low to medium 500,000s. So affordability, low vacancies, good rental yields, and now we're starting to see, as a consequence of the rise in demand that we have charted in the Price Predictor Index, making this the #1 local government area in Australia in that regard, we're now starting to see some significant price growth on the back of that starting to emerge. So we've got a couple of suburbs that have had double-digit growth in their median prices in the last 12 months, Croydon Park and Rosewater, and then we've got a number of others where the median price has grown 7, 8, 9%. I think that's the beginnings of a phase of stronger growth. So we're at the beginning of a cycle for this market. I think first came the uptick in demand, and then came the first signs of price growth. And I think that's going to continue because of everything that's coming up in this part of Adelaide, which brings us to the final and most important part of our location report on this and every location, which is the one we call future prospects. That's what we're always looking for at Hotspotting. We're not so much interested in the present or the recent past, but we're interested in the future, because sometimes a market that currently looks a little bit dicey maybe isn't producing very positive numbers, but if there's big things coming up, then we're going to be interested in it, and we're going to be willing to name it a future hotspot. So Port Adelaide Enfield has got a pretty solid present and a pretty solid recent past, but the future I think is even stronger, and the biggest thing happening is the $90 billion shipbuilding plan. We're building 12 new submarines, 9 frigates, 12 offshore patrol vessels, and a few other things as well. Yeah, $90 billion over a period of time, and in preparedness for that, we have the current currently underway $535 million upgrade to the Osborne Naval Shipyard. There's also a Naval Shipbuilding College being established to train workers, and we expect the workforce coming out of all that, the shipbuilding workforce, to number about 5,000 sometime in the next, say, 7 or 8 years, but a greater number of jobs to be created, maybe 10,000 jobs to be created more broadly for, out in there in the business community from businesses that get various contracts in association with this massive project. Other things happening, there's some large residential developments, a project called Dock 1, which is a $350 million project, and one I referred to earlier, the Fletcher's Slip Master Plan project by Cedar Woods. It's a $160 million project. There's also what I mentioned earlier, the program of relocating hundreds of state public servants to new premises up in this area, and a few other things happening as well. So it's plenty coming up. It's already very solid. It's already the #1 local government area in Australia in our price predictor index for growth markets. Prices are starting to rise, but we think that's the beginning of something for Port Adelaide Enfield, because there's so much coming up in its future, as I've just outlined. If you'd like to find out more about it, about this very compelling future growth market, you can get our report on Port Adelaide Enfield on the hotspotting.com.au website. Just go to the homepage, from the menu select investors, then location reports, and I'll take you to a page where we list all the locations around Australia where we have detailed reports with the sort of information I've just outlined for Port Adelaide Enfield. Or you could perhaps choose to get the latest edition of the Price Predictor Index, which we just published, and it's certainly one of our top 2 most popular products, because it's the one that alerts people to the places that are going to have price growth in the near future, because demand is showing a pattern of rising. Also tells you about the ones to avoid, because the fall away of demand suggests they are going to become, or are, what we call danger markets. That's it for now. That's Hotspot of the Week for this week, the Port Adelaide Enfield local government area in Adelaide. Let's do it again next week, and we shall. Bye for now.